Raider Nation, good morning. It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, and coming up on today's show, the biggest winners and losers after the 2025 NFL Draft. So the only way that you can make this video, make this show, if you will, is if you were already on the Raiders roster before they went out and drafted the 11 players that they ended up drafting, before they ended up signing at the time that I'm making this video, the 14 UDFAs. We're going to start with the offense, then we will go to the defense for both winners and the losers. I'll say this show right here, we are all gas, no breaks, 365 days out of the year. When you want Raiders content and you know where you're going to be able to find it every day, it's going to be on this YouTube channel, so make sure you're subscribed. I'll also say this. To me, we like to call them real ones. A real one would watch a UDFA video. A real one would watch Raiders draft grades. If you still want videos in May, June, and in July, every single day, I promise you this, we're going to be that channel. Also, I'm going to be interviewing a player the Raiders drafted on Tuesday during our live program. Make sure you're subscribed. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a good interview. You guys will be able to ask him some questions as well. So, again, we're going to start on the offensive side of the football here, and we're going to talk about some of the winners first. And these aren't ranked in any particular order. I'll just kind of break down why they are winners and why they are losers. First name, Michael Mayer. There's a lot of conversations around maybe the Raiders potentially going out and adding another tight end. Didn't happen. I'm also going to make him a winner because I didn't want him to get traded. I'm happy the Raiders were able to kind of find, a good spot for Mayer, and I almost wonder, is this going to be a team where you could run some three wide out sets with, a Thornton, maybe a Brock Bowers, a Jacoby Myers, and does that allow Mayer to get that opportunity to be the tight end number one-ish on this football team if Bowers is being used out there as a receiver? Let's go to the next name here. It's going to be Aidan O'Connell, and the reason why O'Connell's featured on this show is because there was some speculation if the Raiders, drafting a quarterback in round 2 and round 3, could they potentially move on from Aidan? The fact that this team only drafted a quarterback, in round 6 in Cam Miller at 215. This tells me that that's going to be somebody that competes with Aidan, and I'll be real. Aidan's a more qualified quarterback, and it's going to be a good backup to somebody along the lines of Geno Smith. Let's go now to the next winner here for the Raiders on the offensive side of the football. And a lot of times when I say winners, some of these guys are just keeping their job. Other players like Geno Smith, it's got to be a clear winner. You got 3 wide receivers. You ended up going at Jack Bech. You go out and you get Thornton, who's a field stretcher. And let's not also forget Tommy Mellott, who is a really incredible athlete. And when you look at some of the testing, he kind of tests out very similar to Julian Edelman. Julian Edelman and Tom Brady, I'm telling you right now, it's going to be an interesting fit. But then also they go out and they make sure they get an Ashton Jeanty, a hell of a running back. You go out and you draft 2 extra offensive linemen. The Raiders made it very, very clear. They wanted to make sure Geno Smith and Ashton Jeanty are going to have all the pieces they possibly can to succeed this season. Let's go to another winner here on offense, DJ Glaze. I did a video before the draft illustrating the players that I thought had the most to lose, and I had Glaze ranked number 1 on that show. Let's face it, if the Raiders wanted, they could have gone with Armin Membu. They decided instead to go with Jeanty, and I think one of the biggest reasons why they did that is because they're confident in Glaze. Also on top of that, yes, they drafted Caleb Rodgers, who's got some versatility, and yes, they drafted Charles Grant, but to me, both of those players are going to be on the left side. Because of how confident they are in DJ Glaze, I think it's why they decided to go with the route that they did on offensive line. Let's go to the final player here. It's Jackson Powers Johnson, and I'm making JPJ a winner because if there's one thing that I've just come away with from this draft, the Raiders want to play FU football. They want to run the ball down your throat. They want to make sure that you feel them the way that teams fear the Philadelphia Eagles, the Detroit Lions, and it's a really physical brand of football. Jack Bech loves to block. You look at a lot of the other players that they brought in, just big-time football guys. With this offensive line, this is an FU football team, and that is the perfect type of guy that JPJ is. He's an FU type of football player. So let me know down below, who's the biggest winner from the 2025 NFL Draft on the Las Vegas Raiders? You can look at it from an offensive standpoint, from a defensive standpoint. Which player do you think benefited the most now after the draft and the UDFA signings are done? To me, the biggest winner for the Las Vegas Raiders, I might even say Ashton Jeanty, because the way that this team built this team in the draft is really going to make sure that Jeanty is going to have everything around him. But I am also just going to flat out say I think Geno Smith was the biggest winner on offense. They made sure that he got himself a running game, and I can't wait to see how this team does execute down the field in the intermediate routes. Geno Smith's about to have a career year. Let's go to some of the losers now on offense. I got to put Tre Tucker on this list, and there's still obviously some hope for him. I think he's going to have a bigger role in kick returning and punt return, but I would imagine Tucker sees the Raiders taking 3 receivers. Bech in round 2, Thornton in round 4, Malott in round 6. And I can't imagine that feels very great for Tucker, who I'm sure probably wanted to try to make it work, as a receiver in the National Football League. Because I'll say this, Bech is better than him. I think they're going to use Thornton. Thornton's got more of the speed than what Tucker has. The way, though, that I would try to use Tucker this season for the Raiders, not only on special teams, I would use him as a gadget guy, maybe on some jet sweeps, because if you got an RPO action and Tucker's coming across the side, you got to be able to respect that speed by Tucker. You got to be able to respect the speed by Thornton down the field, and you have to be able to respect the fact that Ashton Jeanty at any moment can take it to the house. Let's go to maybe the biggest loser on offense. I think it's Thayer Munford. And when the 2 offensive linemen that the Raiders drafted in Charles Grant, that's your left side. And then Caleb Rodgers, the versatility there, the fact that they drafted him in round 3, and Munford was somebody that was drafted in round 7 by the Josh McDaniels regime. This offensive line is already, I think, a lot deeper than what some people give it credit for. And let's just say this organization that does value the trenches keeps, 9 to 10 offensive linemen. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if Thayer Munford's going to fall into that realm of the 9 to 10 offensive linemen that this team would potentially keep, because I would say right now he's lineman number 10 on this roster. Let's go to another loser here. UDFA last season, Carter Bradley. The Raiders not only signed a UDFA quarterback in, Malik, the kid from UNLV, Haj. They also, though, drafted Cam Miller. And then they also talked about at the press conference that, Tommy Malott's not just going to be a wide receiver. He's going to be able to be used a little bit as a kick returner. Haj Malik Williams, yeah, thank you. Also, the fact that, they go out and, draft Cam Miller. Like, when you draft Cam Miller, somebody that competed in the FCS championship game, that's the competition for Carter Bradley. And then also the fact that Malott has some of that quarterback background. I see this team only keeping 3 quarterbacks. And it's going to end up being Geno Smith, Aidan O'Connell, and then it's going to end up being Cam Miller. Because why would you keep Carter Bradley as your practice squad or even an emergency quarterback where if, God forbid, your 3 QBs went down, you could always just go with Tommy Malott or, maybe even Jacoby Myers. Let's go to another loser here. It's Zamir White. They drafted Ashton Jeanty at number 6 overall. They do have a running back coming in also for a camp visit. They didn't sign anybody else in terms of a UDFA, but when you go out and you get the number 1 running back in this year's class, let's just be real. I mean, it's just not good news here for Zeus, and I can't imagine that. I don't even know if Zamir is going to end up making this team. Not only that, the Raiders also went out and got this fullback tight end hybrid player who is a really, really good athlete. I discussed about him a little bit in our UDFA video, Pat Conroy, but not a good sign here for Zamir. And then the final one might be a little bit of a controversial take, but, sometimes I got to be able to give my opinion and I got to be able to stand 10 toes on it. Dylan Parham, offensive lineman. Parham is known for being extremely versatile, and the Raiders went out and they got a very versatile Caleb Rodgers in round 3. Dylan Parham is in the final year of his contract. Sorry, y'all. We've been battling through here. A lot of live hours here at the Raiders Report. But not only, did they sign Alex Kappa, they also gave some money to Jordan Meredith. They go out and get a Caleb Rodgers. I think what you're seeing is the Raiders already ahead of getting ready to not bring Dylan Parham back this upcoming offseason. Before we get into the defensive side of the football and look at some of the winners and losers from the draft on the defensive side, got to give a shout out to our sponsor here, Chubby's. With spring, it's here, summer right around the corner, and it's time to upgrade your wardrobe. It's right now, that's the time. So sweeten the deal for a limited time. Chubby's is giving our listeners 20% off your order with our exclusive code. Use code CHAT at chubbyshorts.com. Chubby's offers a variety of high-quality men's apparel, from super stretchy shorts and swim trunks and 3 short inseam lengths to pants, polos, button-down shirts for when you need to hit up your favorite weekend brunch spot. Embrace the spirit of endless summer with Chubby's, the ultimate destination for bold, vibrant, and outrageously comfortable clothing. For a limited time, Chubby's is giving our listeners 20% off your order with our exclusive code. Use code CHAT at chubbyshorts.com. I've had Chubby's in my life now for probably about 3, 4, 5 years. When I first moved down to Dallas, I can actually remember the guys at Chubby's invited me to go hang out with them. We played Mario Kart, I'm not kidding you, for 2 to 3 hours. And I only say that story because Chubby's is a brand where if you want to support good businesses because you're like, you know what, that's just a bunch of really awesome people, that's the type of people Chubby's really truly are. So whether you're getting dressed for your workday, a workout, or a weekend getaway, Chubby's has you covered. And for a limited time, Chubby's is giving our viewers 20% off your order with our code CHAT at chubbyshorts.com. That is code CHAT at chubbyshorts.com. Support the show, tell them we sent you, and don't blend in with the crowd. Stand out with Chubby's. Let's now go to the defensive side, some of the winners, and you can make an argument the biggest winner on defense was Isaiah Pola-Mao. I still will say I do not have a lot of confidence in our free safety room, but I would imagine if the season started today, Pola-Mao would be the Raiders' starting free safety, and they're going to go with a lot of different looks, I would say. And they're going to do a lot of, mix and matching with some of the corners and DBs that we have. I like Isaiah Pola-Mao a lot. I think he's a really good player, but I think he's more suited to be a safety number 3 on a roster. I was really anticipating the Silver and Black to be a team to go out there and potentially get a free safety. Maybe somebody like an Xavier Watts. I love the pick of Darien Porter. I love the pick of Jack Bech. I'm telling you this, last night, swear to God on my grandfather's grave, I had tears in my eyes watching the call by Bech because you could tell how fired up he was. The reason why I bring that point up, though, is because the Raiders had an opportunity to draft Xavier Watts. They had an opportunity to draft him multiple times, and they decided not to. They also gave Isaiah Pola-Mao at the beginning of this offseason a 2-year, $8 million contract extension because he was not a free agent, but a restricted free agent. So we were able to get that deal done. When you see the way that the Raiders have made deals this offseason, that tells me they're very confident in Pola-Mao. Let's go to linebacker here, Devin White. I think Devin White's got to be a winner. Landon Roberts, to me, is the best linebacker we have on this team. But I was waiting all draft for them to go out and get a replacement for the starter. I think Devin White right now would be our other starting linebacker. That does make me nervous. Maybe, free agency is an opportunity, but there's a lot of, let's face it, a lot of linebackers, and this isn't an updated linebacker depth chart. This looks like maybe the only one that didn't get updated somehow. But they go out and they add a whole bunch of different linebackers, right? I mean, they waited until round 7. Lindenberg got a linebacker there. Got a few UDFAs that they also brought in. But Devin White, I think that he's probably above somebody like an Amari Burney. He's probably above somebody like a Tommy Eichenberg on top of that. Let's go to the next position here on defense as a winner. Trey Tayor, strong safety, and they brought in one of his buddies as a UDFA. But Taylor's always been a player that I know that this organization looks at and sits back and has wondered, can we get more out of him? And because the Raiders, I think, are going to go for this, physical safety because, Jeremy Chin, physical. Isaiah Pola-Mao, physical. Lonnie Johnson Jr., physical. Trey Tayor is maybe a little bit less physical, but was the Jim Thorpe Award winner. So I do think he provides you a little bit more flexibility in your secondary. But if I was Trey, I would feel pretty damn good about how that draft ended up going down. Let's go to another winner here, Darnay Holmes. I wonder if Darnay Holmes, they're planning on making the starting, nickel corner, which I no disrespect to Darnay. It's not the route I personally would have went, but at the exact same time, we got a lot of really good outside corners. Maybe not really good. We have a lot of corners that I could see having upside with Pete Carroll. In terms of the nickel, though, it's Sam Webb and it's Darnay. Now, maybe they're trying to use Eric Stokes or Decamerion Richardson or one of these true outside players as a nickel. You could maybe also see maybe they're going to drop like Isaiah Pola-Mao down a little bit. They're going to do a lot of different looks with their 3 safety looks that Patrick Graham likes to do. But Darnay Holmes has to be a winner. Another winner here on defense, Amari Gainer. I would say right now the number 1 sleeper at the linebacker position that I've been talking about all offseason is Gainer. And I know he's been working with Max. I know he's been doing a lot of the right things. I am curious to know based on some of the moves the Raiders, let's just say, did not do in the draft, are they a lot more confident? I think Amari Burney you consider a winner. Amari Gainer you could consider a winner. And both of those players are two guys that I think that this team is a little bit higher on, maybe than I originally thought. Let's now go to defense here. We're going to look at some of the losers on defense after the draft. The number one name you got to talk about, just be honest here, Charles Snowden, and sorry, we were playing Where's Waldo there for a second, but Charles Snowden, he's got a court case coming up July 22nd for that knuckleheaded DUI thing he did last season, but also on top of that, the Raiders went out and they got two very versatile defensive linemen, and they got two very versatile defensive linemen that can play DT and they can also play edge. Also, they did the exact same thing for some UDFAs. On top of that, Tyree Wilson, before the draft, told me that the Raiders will not be trading him during the draft. So when you see that, and now you see the way that the draft went, I don't see how there's any way in hell, a guy like Charles Snowden is going to be feeling very good. I think John Joyner is the top UDFA that they brought in. I think Joyner is better than Snowden. Hell, I think Andre Carter is better than Charles Snowden. We will see how this ultimately ends up shaping out, but to me, I would say Snowden was a big loser from the draft. Let's go to DT, Matthew Butler. He was already on the outside looking in, and now you draft two players in round 4 and in round 6. I don't know how Matthew Butler's going to end up making this team. They went out and they signed Kyle Pecco. You got a young player like Jonah Laulu. Christian Wilkins, there's some concerns right now around a foot injury. I don't really know what the hell to think about the injury because he's still out there practicing and doing everything you want to see. But I think the Raiders made a very loud statement of Butler that said, sorry, dude, you're probably not going to be hanging around with us for too much longer. Let's go to another player here. It's got to be Decamerion Richardson, 4th-round pick last season by the old regime. And now you go out and you get a better version of Decamerion Richardson and Darien Porter, long, lanky, athletic freak. Porter is going to be better than Richardson. Stokes, to me, is better than Richardson. And the Raiders clearly value this long, lanky, type of corner. Let's say this. Don't sleep on Mel Dotson, a Raiders UDFA out of Kansas, who could be making some headway as well. But for Richardson, Richardson probably didn't want a long, lanky, athletic corner to be drafted early, and they went out and they did that in Darien Porter. Another loser here on defense, I'm going to say, is Tommy Eichenberg, 5th rounder out of Ohio State last season. Because of that old regime being the reason why he got drafted, I know Lindenberg was drafted in round 7, but when you see the traits that Lindenberg has, Cody Lindenberg from Minnesota, it reminds me very similar of what Eichenberg does. And Eichenberg, is a good middle linebacker, but we already have a good middle linebacker in a Landon Roberts. We'll see how this whole linebacker room is going to end up going. That's probably going to be the most interesting battle from camp, is what shapes out from the linebacker battle. And then I am just going to say Jonah Laulu, and I might regret this one later on. But again, they drafted Tank Hemingway, and then they also went out and they ended up getting, J.J. Pegues, 2 defensive tackles that are going to be able to be in this rotation a little bit. You got you also have Adam Butler into that mix. Tyree Wilson's going to be able to get his own. So for Laulu, somebody who's getting ready to enter year 2, he's probably hoping that he could potentially have a bigger role on this defense. And the other reason why he's a loser, he's still going to go out there and he's going to be able to do his thing. But when you have a coach like Rob Leonard and you get an opportunity like he thought he might have had, seeing that slip through your fingers a little bit kind of stings. So what do you guys think? Who was the biggest loser from the 2025 NFL Draft for the Raiders? I gave you some of my ideas on offense and on defense. If I forgot a name, please, please, please let me know. All right, y'all, I want you to enjoy the rest of your Monday. Again, I'm going to get you another video later on today. I'll also get you another video bright and early tomorrow before we go live. And when we go live tomorrow, the plan is to have a player that the Raiders drafted on that live show. It's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure you tune in. To everybody that was featured in the winners and losers video, I'm sorry to the players that were the losers. To the players that were the winners, keep it going, and let's go Raiders.